It's funny. I hear all this, like I see 10x all the time. So as a business development
You're in
specialist
Texas.
person, right? And I see all this 10x, 10x. We're going to 10x your business. Most people can't 2x their business without having major, major issues that they need to work through. So one of the first things when you said misalignment, what a great term, is that people are being fed this idea that if you were just a little bit smarter, a little bit better, if we had a person working with us, we would 10x the business. No, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. We would 10% or 15% or 20. And then Max, you'd help me take a look at that again. And say, okay, now where are we? Who am I now? Every time your business increases, it's different and it's new. And you don't speak that language anymore.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max. I am your host. I'm the CEO here at Smith & Sons in Canada, and I'm the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. And I want to give you a special welcome to our 200th episode. Welcome to you if you're a first-time listener. It's great to have you checking us out. And if you are a long-time listener, I appreciate you hanging in there, and I get a lot of love via email, comments, etc., and I really appreciate the feedback. It is my oxygen. As usual, like and subscribe. One of these drops every week, and we will be, we would love it if you get across to Business for Builders VIP, the private group as well. I've talked about that as being a great community of builders and general contractors, subcontractors and apprentices, where we can really just get in and just talk about some of the challenges that we're facing and use that group. I don't want to be the guy that talks a lot on that group, although I would love to get involved, but I really want that community and the camaraderie to be able to, help you develop your business wherever you are. So I think that's enough housekeeping. Today we have got, this is a special event. It may not be like the UFC, but it is a special event. As you can see, I've donned the cans. We've got our laptop sitting here. I have a special guest. You are going to love this episode. Well, I trust you do. And we're going to do our best to deliver steak and potatoes at the highest level, just like we do every time. Today, I have the privilege and the pleasure of interviewing somebody that I met probably a whisker over 12 months ago. He was actually, and still is to some extent, a mentor of mine. He actually, he was a mentor inside of a coaching fraternity that we're still part of, and he actually was part of the onboarding mechanism there. And I was really excited to begin working with him. Today, I'd like to welcome to the Business for Builders podcast, Mr. John Maclaren, better known as Coach Mac, and the only retired Navy SEAL that I know. It is a pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Welcome.
It is my pleasure. The 200th episode. I was up all night too. I was anxious and there's nothing I could study for this, so I hope I do okay.
Well, I think that's where we do really excel, is in that spontaneous place. I think it's a good thing. So let me just get cracking with some really a bit of a formal introduction. So 18 months after entering the Navy, John was in BUDS training and graduated into the Navy SEAL teams. He would serve over 9 years in the Navy, including his time as a SEAL, in which he worked in over a dozen countries. He was part of several responses to violence acts that threatened many people's way of life. He credits fitness as a reason why he was able to be in the position he was in and to serve and protect people in his home country and around the world. John is the executive director of Direct Action Inc., his organization that helps prepare students to work to become Navy SEAL and BUD graduates. John, is that a fair introduction? Have I missed anything?
Oh, well, that's more than enough. It is nothing worse than an introduction about yourself. So I appreciate that. But yes, I'm either doing business development or working with military candidates. I run a program called Team Eagle One, and we, as far as the military candidates, and we successfully train and prepare more Navy SEAL and Naval Special Warfare candidates than any other program. And I say that not to boast. I say that because systems work. And when you break things down to the point where you do, since I've known you for a while, and I do, then the systems actually start to work. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And when you called about the comparison and the correlation between the professional world and specifically the one that you're servicing with most of your time and mine, I was thrilled. I thought about it for days as to how much of a correlation there is. So really exciting to be here. But so that was a great about 19 years ago, I started developing a neuroscience approach and understanding and series of teaching so that regular folks like me, regular people like me could actually figure out what to actually do to make success happen in your head, downrange, in your professions, in your living room, since it's extremely important that your home goes well as well. So that was it. That was a great introduction. And
I think what stood out to me, because there's a lot more notes in that introduction, which we didn't cover, but, with what you do with Team Eagle One, your success rate is ridiculously better than the Navy. Do you want to speak to, because that really does reinforce, it's like one thing to say, hey, this is what I do, but the results really do shine a light on how much of a difference that your system makes.
Thanks for pointing that out. It really is. I love your phrasing too. It's ridiculously better. And that wasn't overnight. It's been doing that program, running that program. It was a Navy contracted program initially, United States Navy, since I know you more than most people I know have listeners around the world, actually. So United States Navy program for the Navy SEAL team specifically. And we have a 96% graduation rate. Now, folks, most of the listeners wouldn't know the typical graduation rate is about 8 to 17 or 8 to 20%. So to have a program that prepares people to graduate 96% of the time, and equally noteworthy is that there's about a 30 to 40% injury rate in those active duty programs. And if you graduate from our program, we have never had one of our candidates become injured in the active duty program as well. What that means is we simply prepare them physically, mentally, emotionally better. And it's my personal obsession, really. It's my personal obsession. Well, like, this is yours, and I've known you long enough to know it is. It's my personal obsession to make sure we keep doing something better. I never think it's good, and I never think it's good enough. What we just did was good enough because we made it past it, but I never think it's good enough for tomorrow.
Yeah. Continuous improvement is just a mantra. Like, the minute you get comfortable, that's now vulnerability, because all of a sudden your head's not in the game. So, I think it drives me every day. And I've said this on recent podcasts. It's like every day with the 3 companies that I run, I'm absolutely guaranteed to learn something today if I'm open to it, and can use that to improve my activity, my effectiveness, everything that goes with. So, like, I'm sure that I was always intrigued by the strength of not just the successful graduates, but those that would give the Navy SEAL program a crack, because, it was probably, I don't know, late 90s or early 2000s where there's a YouTube video, a series that gets around, and like, it was supremely intimidating. I think I'm a bit of a goer, but some of those guys, mate, they are strong, like physically and mentally. Especially the graduates, they really do. That is it. They call it the Hell Week. That's a thing.
Yeah, Hell Week is how you finish. BUDS training typically breaks down into 4 sections: right. Indoctrination, or prep, depending on what era we're talking about. It's what they called it. And then first, second, and third phase. The end of first phase, the way you graduate out of first phase and into second, is Hell Week, which starts on Sunday afternoon, and finishes on Friday early afternoon or late morning. So you stay up that entire week and you just keep going. Of course you keep going, because if you stop, you can fall asleep. You can fall asleep with a fork on the way to your mouth.
I think I've seen videos of that. It's real.
Yeah, exactly. And it's if I hadn't experienced before, but you're right. And that's a life-changing as well in your industry, and with a lot of listeners, I imagine they've all done things. They're like, wow, that was above and beyond. That took me way past the norm to finish that. The 28-hour days, the things that can go wrong. That makes your understanding of what's hard, what's tiring, what's fatiguing, what's too challenging. That takes that understanding and kind of throws it away. It moves you away from the baseline of average. So one of the biggest things Hell Week does is you'll never again think something is just too tiring or just too much, because well, I'll give you a fun example. Hell Week starts on Sunday and ends on Friday, but no one quits after Tuesday. So a lot of people will quit Sunday in the first hour. Overwhelming, right? There's what you when you talked about resilience and mental fortitude and all these things. When we talked about that before this, that's what we're talking about. Is they're just overwhelmed. And overwhelm is simple. Overwhelm is taking how I feel right now and thinking, oh my gosh, it's never going to get better. I project it into the future. So this is going to suck forever. I can't do this anymore. The funny thing about that is they are doing it. They're already doing it right now. So if they didn't project it into the future and say, I won't be able to do this for 5 or 6 days, they already are doing it. You actually are succeeding when you quit. We're almost always succeeding as we quit. People say to me, success is 90% mental. I think no, actually quitting's 90% mental. Success was just one more step and one more step. It was just one more physical step. We thought about something and we did it. You do it every day. Ever since I've met you, you're on fire all the time. And I think it's hard to think that you're failing when you're too busy doing today and tomorrow. I don't have time really to consider the failure option. I'm too busy just trying to get a little bit better. And I know you to be that way as well. I always say I'm the newest. I've been 40 years in my business as of November. I joined the Navy 40 years ago, this coming November. So, but I always say I'm an FNG. I'm the newest guy with 40 years experience on every job I go to. And you said it. You said it just before this. You started talking about it. You're always learning. I never got this. I don't got this ever. I'm always an FNG.
Now, for all of the viewers that don't know what an FNG is, because I know what it is, are you going to elaborate or shall I?
I am happy to. I literally, I thought, wait, is this one of those, is this a G-rated show?
No, it's not.
Whatever. Okay, I didn't think so.
FNG stands for?
Go ahead.
The fucking new guy.
Fucking new guy, right. It's the fucking new guy. And people think fucking new guy is an insult. It's not. It's not at all. It's actually a state of mind. So I love, as I always say, I was working on a security job for a very popular celebrity person in Los Angeles. And one of his people said, boy, you pay attention at a level that I've never seen anybody. And then he said, you're also always in a good mood. And I said, well, like I never come to work thinking I got this. I come to work being very, very experienced, but I've never been on this day, on this job with this, in this scenario. So I'm the most experienced FNG in the room.
Yeah.
And you said it, it puts your head in a certain place, tension, without frustrated, anxious, excessively anxious, all really, really helpful. But yeah, FNG, always be an FNG.
Yeah, I think, to that point, going back to the times when they're most likely to cough up and give up, in Hell Week, I always say to my audience that success lies outside your comfort zone, which basically alludes to the FNG in perpetuity. Because if I do stagnate, that's stressful as well. And then of course, if you are, busy declining, well, that's a stress zone as well. So, if success lies outside of our comfort zone, can you speak to the sense, because I say often too, the minute you hit a sense of overwhelm, you are potentially on the threshold of breakthrough. So when you're sitting there Sunday night and you're lying in that cold water or whatever they put you through at that moment, that sense of overwhelm that you spoke to, is that where they've got that ability to make the decision, whereas they can look long-term and go, this isn't forever, I've just got to, and that would be the difference between the guys that don't quit and the guys that quit. Like, do you agree with that? I can't remember where I heard that statement that says that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you're on the threshold of breakthrough. Is
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great phrasing. I've never heard that phrasing before, Max, but that's a great phrasing. I teach the neuroscience, how your head actually works. The reason your head looks for a way out or through, right? It looks for a way out or through. That's what it's going to do. So when you just said you're on the verge of a breakthrough,
Yep.
your brain says, how do I go through this? And I can give you a little cheat sheet that I use. Or how do I get out of this? And of course, there's a lot of instructors saying, hey, Max, I got hot cocoa for you over here if you just want to quit. Why don't you come have a seat with me? Why don't you sit down? Sometimes they'll make you sit down so that they can have you get comfortable and
Right.
then let you decide, Max, you don't need to go back out there. That's insane. That's crazy talk out there. I wouldn't have sat down for hot cocoa. I would have said, like, no, go ahead and torture me, because I don't get comfortable when I'm in the field. I don't ever look for comfort
Right.
there, except for medically. But that was such a great phrasing you just had. It's on the verge of breakthrough. And the way I find it is, we have a saying, the teammate next to me is always more important than me. The teammate next to me is always more important to me. Overwhelm is how I feel projected into the future. This is going to keep sucking. And yet if I turn around and say, how's Max doing? Man, Max is kicking ass. Way to go. All right, Max, let's go after this. If I use you as my focal point and how you're doing and I'm doing, and again, not to see if you need help, just to see how you are, I can't think about how much it sucks for me and how much it's going to suck for 4 more days. If I look over and go, right on, Max looks like he feels the same kind of shit I feel. Let's just keep on going. or wow, Max is impressive right now. That's where we keep going. So the teammate next to me is always more important to me than me. So if I find a moment where I'm starting to fall into overwhelm, the way out of it would be just to focus on someone here. And I don't mean to teach them anything or learn anything, just pay attention to them. You cannot focus on how much it sucks for you and how you and I will work better together at the same time. Your brain won't do it. They're 2 different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
So that simple thing, like you said, and there's the breakthrough. You and I are now going through it.
Yeah.
And I also just added more together,
Yeah.
because I was separate from you. I was thinking about how much it sucked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Max disappeared. You disappeared in my entire awareness in that. So the teammate next to me is always more important than me. That'll pull you back, what I call pulling you back to now. That'll pull you back to now so many times, is to just see, how's Max doing? You might be inspired. Wow, Max is crushing it right now. That's amazing. And you might be like, ooh, Max looks like he feels just like I do. Oh, good. We're in the same boat. You know, it doesn't matter what you decide when you notice the person next to you. It just matters that you are not in the future thinking about your own misery or circumstance.
Yeah. Look, we've got, we've got 7, points around some of the similarities, and I would be overly adventurous to compare what they do in Navy SEAL teams versus what we do in construction. But we are going to try and draw some inspiration from, what, the Navy SEALs do, and how we can maybe glean some of that mental toughness or, that really solid standpoint. Because what I know, having been a business coach now for only 12 months, officially, and, seeing some of the attrition that's gone on, I look at, I've had guys say to me, Max, I can't keep doing this. It's too intense. Like, it's too much. So there's that sense of overwhelm, and it's not like I don't sit in a seat of judgment. They got to do what they got to do.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, what separates, like, there's going to be a time where you'll circle back, and you're going to have to go through that anyway if you want to hit the goal. So I say often that, resistance builds muscle mass. The more you do it, the stronger you get. Like that whole thing about outside the comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And really, in business, we were talking about the stress, and we're going to get into some of these discussion points. In business, there's stress when you're expanding, there's stress when you're at stagnation, when you're not going anywhere, and there's stress when you're declining. So you either got to enjoy the pain and enjoy the game, or you got to go and work at Home Depot, for all of my general contractor counterparts and audiences. Like, I don't want to be the bearer and be a doomsdayist or what have you. But what's really important to me, Coach Mac, is the safety of the human being. Like, screw the business and the money and everything that goes with it, because I have lost one of my guys where he hurt himself, right? And there was no conversation, and there was no factors that indicated that he was in a position where he wasn't okay. But he is not with us anymore. And that's super sad. And I take away from that going, above all else, we can checklist this and key performance indicator that, But first and foremost, we've got to focus on the human. So here's a cup of cocoa. You don't have to do this anymore, right? And that's what they're doing, in the SEAL teams. So, with that stress, and it's really, stress is just, I think, an adverse stimuli that we need to get comfortable with. If we say, yes, we want it, it's like, a bit of a pivot. Guys say to me, I want to run $1 million business. And I'm like, great. Are you ready to invest $20,000 in advertising? And they're like, well, I need to do that? So there's this misalignment between their goal and reality as to what's required. They would love to be a Navy. I would love to be a Navy SEAL like you, Coach Mac. Am I prepared to pay the price? Never.
Wow. Your phrasing is so fantastic. First of all, you started out by saying very humbly so, and I appreciate that. But well, there may not be those similarities. And I thought, oh, and then you followed up with like perfect similarities, like the synchronicity of, and you pointed out with your friend, he said isn't around anymore. The interesting thing about that is you're in a professional field of like tough people.
Sure.
It just is.
Yep.
It breeds itself.
It does.
Why? Because it was a skill. It was a bunch of trades and skills that people who weren't pretty tough people didn't learn, because it's a difficult job. It's and it's costly. And while there isn't intentional hurt against you, there's accidental pain, injury, overwhelm, all these things constantly. So in the field, we have two types of injuries, right? Accidental and intentional. And you have a whole bunch of accidental. You just gave me an example of intentional, but you have a whole bunch of accidental. So there are some incredible similarities right there. And it's funny. I hear all this, like I see 10X all the time. So as a business development,
you're in Texas.
Right. And I see all this 10X. We're going to 10X your business. Most people can't 2X their business without having major issues that they need to work through. So one of the first things when you said misalignment, what a great term, is that people are being fed this idea that if you were just a little bit smarter, a little bit better, if we had a person working with us, we would 10X the business. No, we wouldn't. We would 10% or 15% or 20. And then max, you'd help me take a look at that again. And say, okay, now where are we? Who am I now? Every time your business increases, it's different and it's new, and you don't speak that language anymore. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I love when people say $1 million business, are you talking about, I'm sure in this case, we're talking about profit. I believe we're talking about that profit, but $1 million business, because it's one of the points where you have to become someone different. Yep. You have to speak a language you didn't speak yesterday. That's daunting. Wow, that's like this whole new thing in the whole world. The human brain is designed to resist getting better. And it does it with overwhelm. It does it with compartmentalization. It does it with self-judgment. It does it with fatigue and exhaustion, right? We just lose sleep. So I love what you said. The similarities are very much there. It's one of the reasons we need a plan, but I use this phrase a lot. You don't speak the language, meaning I never speak the language of the me who's 15% better. I don't speak it. The job is to actually become the person who can learn that new language every 15%. So every 15%, I'm going to be, oh man, God, I'm in a brand new place. Every 5%, 10%, 15. I'm in this brand new place. I turn around Max and go, well, Max, now I got 2 million. I just wanted 1 million and it was working, but now I got 2 million. And the answer is simple. I don't speak the language of a $5 million year. I speak the language of a $1 million year. And yet we all think we're speaking English. So I'll go work with a candidate and they'll say, oh, coach, I played this sport. I played this sport. I played this sport. I think Buds is an animal unlike any other animal. So is 5 million instead of 1 million. And so is 20 million instead of 5 million, as you know. That's what you're talking. And yet people think, oh, it's just going to be more of the same. No, we always have to slow our roll. We have to go back and do the basics for all of these things. The SEAL team functions on the basics. We do the basics. We do basic arithmetic in our own version, room clearing in the kill house, rappelling, skydiving, underwater demolitions. We do the basics every single month forever. And one of the biggest flaws I find in the civilian world is we think we leave the basics behind because we're better than that. And we can't. It's like, I don't care how good the equipment gets, how good the tech gets. Everything comes down to door.
Right.
And I think sometimes that, I don't know, tell me in your field with your work with folks, do you feel like that's what gets left behind is, oh, I don't have to live that way anymore? And I think, sure I do. That's what got me here. That's the foundations of me putting one foot in front of the other. I don't know how it relates for you, but we don't speak the language of excellence. And every time we do, now that's our average.
I think, I think where I, as you're talking, and I've seen a few instances whereby the revenue of the business increases over a short period of time, and it might only be 3 or 4x. But what begins to happen is that the organic creature that drives the performance, the business actually begins to outperform the operator. And I have a saying too that the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. So when the pack begins to move past the leader, that becomes intimidating. And then all of a sudden, I've got a leader that just basically implodes. And I've seen some woeful examples how a certain individual doesn't respond well to me putting a finger in the pain point going, this is what's got to change if you're going to survive. And there's resistance there, because the other thing that I am careful about is for me to be successful, I've got to have confidence and humility at the same levels. There is no room for ego. Zero ego. I used to say ego and humility, but those two cannot coexist. Confidence, however, with humility at equal levels, that can work. And I love to see a confident operator. If I have an operator that's got a high ego, they're going to fail. It just doesn't work long term. So that is a similarity, because I'm trying to draw the organic creature who's part of this very fixed network of checklists and systems, operating procedures, processes, KPIs. I've then got to tie this organic creature to that really kind of black and white boring. And sometimes they don't grow at the same point. So, to your point, I think staying on point as far as a learning fundamental or an attitude towards learning that says, I grew this much personally and the business grew this much. That fundamental has got to stay the same, because higher the levels, bigger the devils. The more height I push, the more I've got to demand of myself to get better. I cannot get comfortable and think that the business growth is automatic and my growth is automatic. It is not.
Man, I have never heard it phrased that way, Max. That's fantastic. One of the downfalls in the SEAL team is that our skill set far outpaces our personal development.
Right. Agree.
Let's call it professional development as a person.
Yes.
Because personal development can get lost on some people. So never heard anyone explain it the way you do. It just clicks so many bells for me. The destruction of a SEAL team is in their living room.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's never downrange.
That's right.
Because we can handle anything downrange.
In the field.
We're apex predators, right?
Yep.
We can handle anything downrange. We're apex predators. The destruction of a SEAL team is always in their living room. And in your case, the personal dynamics, the small things, the things that we can't believe we're doing. I said to a client the other day, and he said, well, I have a family business. I said, well, that's your problem. You make too much money to be a family business anymore. He said, no, well, what's the difference? I said, a family business makes money for its family, and a corporation makes space for its employees to grow. Its primary focus becomes, one of the attributes is that I'm setting this up so employees can rise through. Where a family business is just making sure the family ends up better. We pay our people. It's nothing wrong with either one. They're just different mindsets. But I love what you said, that personal and professional growth. As I said, I am never good enough. Just that yesterday was good enough, but it is not good enough for today or tomorrow. And man, that was great phrasing. The destruction of an amazing operator is always in a platoon hut, meaning personally and administratively, or in his living room or her living room. I'm old enough where I still have a SEAL team bias that there was no females around when I was coming up, so I still use that gender bias.
Yeah. And I think, what I'm starting to notice, and it's interesting because I guess I was in some sort of coaching or mentoring role as a franchisor, but once I moved into elite business advisory, with, your guys' help, it really did start to crystallize, what I had to understand as, a leader in the construction sector, especially operating as a coach. And, I would often in the early days, I probably charged off into the sunset with all of the infrastructure, thinking that is what was going to change their life, not understanding.
I've so been there.
Right.
Keep going. But I share your pain in that human folly that I have been down the road of many times.
Yeah. And so, it soon became apparent that there was this nurturing process. And really, we talked a lot about what stood out to me was a couple of things. But, the fact that as a coach, my role is to bring awareness and then provide education and then provide support and accountability. And so sometimes you had to go into that nurturing role where you go, hang on a minute, time out on some of the checklists and some of the KPIs. I got to talk to the human, because I notice the sense of overwhelm. And most of the time it's the paralysis of analysis. They don't know whether, for a construction term, whether they're punched, bored, or drilled. They don't know which way is up. They don't know where to start. And that sense of overwhelm floods in and really does, it destroys, because, I think action creates emotion, and so once we get moving, but I would see a lot of the time, because it was very overwhelming. And the other part is, as a tradie, as a carpenter by trade, we always got taught the trade, but we never got taught a personal leadership development or the importance of, and we certainly didn't get taught, KPIs and financial management and all of that kind of fiduciary responsibility as it relates. So this is why this podcast exists, is because it's all about legacy, not necessarily just currency, because this show will live on and constantly add value. And I just got an email from a guy and he's in the States and he's like, love your podcast. I'd love to have a chat to you about coaching. And, some guys haven't got the ability financially to do that yet. So we focus on in this podcast to try and give them that hand up, not a handout, and help them get the understanding and the realization and the awareness so they can develop a business that's going to give them some capital to invest in some full-time coaching. So it is a very, I've just noticed that, even you go back to my Elite Business website and you can get on the Silver Bullet Academy for $65, American, or you can't afford that, then listen to the podcast. There's just got to be, like in the military, you don't start out as a general. You've got to do your time, and you've got
a lot of floors.
You've got to mop a lot of floors, right? Yeah, and you've got to develop as a human, not just get the head knowledge. And this is where we've got to get the intelligence quotient, but we've also got to get the financial quotient, but we've also got to get the emotional quotient. And it really is a challenge on the inside to ensure that we become the human beings. Like you say, we've got to speak the language of the next level, almost on the way to the next level. Otherwise, our ability to overcome and grow and develop and lead and have that sense of fulfillment, is certainly, what's important. So, the stress being, an adverse stimuli, it's not enjoyable. Yeah, so I think, in business, it's not enjoyable. We just have to get used to it. And if you're not prepared to embrace the pain, then I often talk to guys about, hey, you've got to make sure your personal goals align with your business goals. No point in having a goal to go and build a $5 million revenue or $10 million business if your home life or your living room is shot to pieces. You've got to really, try and balance those two. It's important. So,
and you can't, right? You can't.
Yeah.
It might be invisible to the people at work.
Absolutely.
But it's still there.
Yeah.
It's a cancer. It's a cancer. It's why I will tell you, when I go work with a corporation outside of any industry that you're talking about here, like a regular corporation, I just sit in their meetings and I listen to the way they respond and the way they generally carry a meeting, because it's telling me who they are inside their heads. I speak neuroscience, right? So it tells me who they are. You can't, as I tell active duty SEAL team folks I work with, you cannot drink excessively 7 days a week and expect to be a high performer. You might perform well enough that no one notices, but you notice, and unconsciously, and I'm not saying anything about drinking, partying, anything. People do what they do. But you said it. You said the word misaligned like 20 minutes ago. You said it's just misaligned. And I was like, the sacrifice is that discipline, every type of discipline is a horse. I cannot ride 2 horses at once, and I cannot ride more than a few a day. So my disciplines cannot be 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
I have to have a Max Peterson that has some of his disciplines that I don't have to have. Even if I could have had them, and I would offer that I can't have the amazing disciplines that my friends have. It's one of the reasons we're a team, is they're just a specialist in a way that I won't be or didn't want to be. And they did it. So every discipline aspect is a horse. You cannot ride 2 horses at once, and you cannot ride too many horses in a day. So you said it, misaligned. One, that America especially has sold the idea that you can work 4 hours a week and you can 10x your business overnight. You can do all this stuff. That's ludicrous. Imagine what would happen to your family or your business if you 10x'd it. I did a little poll on the internet not too long ago, and I said, which one of you could actually 2x 1 month and not have major issues? 100% of the people said we would be in a nightmare if we 2x'd in just 1 month, because every issue would be more than double. It'd be quadrupled. Every delay, every interpersonal issue, everything would be a mess. It has to go baby steps. And I have to constantly be ready for the fact that I not only don't know, I'll never know. It's good enough for yesterday, but not good enough for tomorrow. Like you said, it's a mindset of, I don't call it anxiety much anymore. I call it enthusiasm, because I love the fact that I don't know. In my 30s, I lived with a lot of what I knew, but in my 50s, I live with a lot of how much I love the fact that I don't know.
Yeah. But
I have enough experience that you and I'll figure out how to navigate the day, and then we'll get through tomorrow a little bit better, hopefully, or we'll die trying. I love what you said about confidence and ego, though.
Right.
You said ego. Confidence is, I tried, I didn't die, I learned from it, and I applied that to trying again. That's the confidence cycle. I tried, I didn't die, I learned something, I'd applied it to trying again. That's all confidence is. Confidence has nothing to do with success, except that I'm still here to try it again. Ego is compared to someone else. Compared to someone else, I'm okay. It's a fear-based response. That's what I love when you said, I used to say ego, now I say confidence. I didn't die. I learned something, applied it, tried again. It had nothing to do with anyone else, except that I could learn something from everyone else. When you said, wow, that's like hours of neuroscience class right there.
I mean, everyone wants to be wise. In other words, you've acquired wisdom. Well, guess where wisdom comes from? Experience. And guess what is wrapped up in experience? A
foolishness.
Multitude of foolishness and fuck-ups. It's like, I don't know what else to say, but it's interesting, because then as you fail forward, if you are mature in your understanding and your viewpoint and your attitude, you will go, I could do that a lot better. You know, I'm a guy that I listen to a lot, Alex Hormozy, he talks about how business owners go from being, uninformed optimists to then informed pessimists to hit the valley of despair. And they go, this is too hard. I'm going to piss off and start another business. Guess where they're at? Uninformed optimism that leads into informed pessimism, which leads into the valley of despair. Now, if you can kick out of the valley of despair, you actually move up the rank into informed optimism, because now you know better because you spent some time in the valley. And then, of course, that will then, ironically, it would lead. But, you know, if you don't lift the weight, that resistance doesn't happen. You don't get the muscle mass. And so, yeah.
And then, of course, the beginning of lifting the weight is the hardest.
Yeah.
Because it's also new. You know, again, I've been in my business of anything to do with the military or some type of development for, again, almost 40 years. But every single client is new. Every single candidate is new. As soon as I think, and I said this before, but as soon as I think I got this, when a candidate says to me, oh, don't worry, coach, I got this, I make the same joke every time. I'm going to go home. I'm going to pick the uniform I want to get buried for, because you are fucking going to kill us both. I got this, coach. Because I got this says I'm not even paying attention anymore. I want to be mildly vigilant, not hypervigilant, because hypervigilant comes from like, I'm afraid of everything, but I'm afraid enough where I should be anxious enough. Vigilance, I'm going to be vigilant or hypervigilant. I never got this. And then I have to raise great people, because I can't do it all. I can't do much. I surround myself with great people. I just, because I'm so curious, I love to hear them, love to hear like your phrasing. Since I think about in neuroscience terms and everything, I think, man, what do I have to do to help brains understand your phrasing more? Because your phrasing is so on point of how to activate the problem solving centers of your brain and all these kind of things, and minimize the fact that we just live in abject terror until we're too exhausted to give a crap. And then we go back up to anxiety and terror, and then we don't give a crap and all this. And remember, tough people compartmentalize. We all do it, but tough people, tough professions, we compartmentalize. And if we don't decompartmentalize somewhere, and you'll know this because your living room goes to shit and your personal relationships go to shit, or we'll use like going out or drinking or something all night every night. We'll start to do things that we wouldn't do if we were really living well, whatever your version of well is. And so that's what lets us know we are not decompartmentalizing, because when you're not used to decompartmentalizing, it can leave you feeling weak. Like I'm weak because I had to blow off steam or do this or relax or do that. It's easier to say I should be stressed out and in motion all the time. It's not. Our IQ drops like measurably up to 30 points. When we're on overwhelm, angry, frustrated, exhausted, pissed off, our IQ drops up to 30 points. That's why we say things like you always and you never. We know no one always and no one never, exactly. But we say it because our IQ just drops so. Yeah, our IQ just drops so low that we're like, oh my gosh, honey, you always do this. You're never going to do this. And you think, it's not true.
Quite categoric, isn't it, really?
Your IQ went into the bucket. And so, so your phrasing is fantastic. And as I listen to you, I think, oh man, I have to add this into the candidate program. How do I make them understand your phrasing better? Because your brain wants to be average or a little bit less than average. That's right. Its natural state of being. You have to train it to be more, and that's why it sucks. And that's why it's painful, because average is easy and it's on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, I often say to my audience, and of course, if they've been around long enough, they'll hear me say that the minute, and I've doubled down on this a lot, that when my emotion goes up, my ability to make good decisions goes down. And it's the classic thing like, yeah, right. And later on, you're like, why did I do that? Well, I know why, because your ability to make good decisions went through the floor because your emotion went through the roof. Because later on, when you're not emotional, when you are in a position where you're now level-headed, you can categorically assess that incident and go, that was the dumbest thing that I ever did. I don't know why I did it. And it's to your point where your IQ just drops down massively.
Just chemistry. It's just chemistry.
Yes. So I say for me, because, I might be deemed to be a bit of a hothead and a short fuse, my favorite word.
No, say it isn't so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Occasionally.
I have laid waste to the village, my friend. You're in good company. It's taking me years just to be irritable, not actually a flamethrower. So I understand.
So my thing is when I feel that emotion starting, because the emotion can rise quickly, but I like to try and catch it. And my favorite word is regulate. Regulate, like quickly assess the surroundings. Is it going to be worth it if this is the outcome that you want? And this all happens really quickly now. But I think there's that awareness where for me, I've had to make sure that, because I can destroy a lot of the hard work that I've done can come unstuck because I got emotional. And
in a small amount of time.
In a small amount, real quick. And so I think that the older I get, the more I've got to lose. And so, I've got to be mature. And, really, honestly, I look in the mirror and go, there's an old 21-year-old. Like, nothing's really changed. Let's face it. I'm still a clown.
It takes more ibuprofen for me to get through the day. But other than that, and I had better hair. I had better hair then. So other than that, it's the same. I had less fat, better hair, and I took less ibuprofen. Yeah. Other than that, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. So, I just love and this is what I think I'm falling in love with more is the battle that faces all of us to be, better on the inside and focus not just externally, although there's things that we need to do in business that need to be, more focused on results and systems and recruitment and things like that. But I think what's also got to be spoken about at the same level is the importance of personal leadership, is the importance of personal development, the disciplines that surround the individual instead of, because I see what happens from weak operators. when there's a failure within, sometimes it's micro, sometimes it's macro, but they will always deflect responsibility. And that is a screaming red flag that that individual has got too much ego. They don't want to take responsibility because they just love to blame others. Like it gets them off the hook because everyone else can see the truth and they refuse to accept the responsibility and develop through failure. You know,
I love it. The course I teach is called Absolute Responsibility.
right.
It's your absolute ability to respond. Again, you said misaligned earlier. People talk about responsibility as if it means taking blame. And I use the expression, look, nothing is my fault, but everything known and unknown is my responsibility. I don't care if I didn't know it. The fact that anything happened with me around it makes it my responsibility, but not my fault. If I want to go fault, I could go back in time. We could go to politics. We could go to like England. You know, we could go a lot of places if we just look for whose fault. Absolute responsibility is my absolute ability to respond in a manner that increases the positive outcome for my environment.
Yeah.
And you just said it might be just in me. It might be in my living room. It might be at work. I find that people think responsibility means I just fucked up. And I may have, because I certainly have. But it doesn't matter. I'm using responsibility as a term so that I can begin to navigate, you know, what is feedback, right? Reinforce guidelines and provide a path up or out. You know, as we said, as you mentioned with your friend earlier, provide a path up or out. And that your brain, by the way, naturally will find a path out that is extremely negative if it stays negative for too long. So I love what you're saying is people will say, well, it wasn't my fault. And I would say, well, look, everything's my fault. Nothing is my fault. Everything's my fault. It doesn't matter. The word doesn't have a meaning to me. It's that we're now responsible. And the example I use is you're driving by a wreck on the road. You see a little fender bender or something that just happens. And you start asking yourself, does everybody look like they're okay? Should I stop? That's absolute responsibility. You suddenly realize you are responsible for all those people that had nothing to do with you, that nothing happened. So you're trying to figure out, should I stop? Should I call 911 or whatever the numbers are in the country that you're listening to, all of these things. But yeah, I love the phrasing is that people are so busy trying not to be at fault.
Yep.
And that is actually a rear view mirror. I didn't do that. And so for me, I'm turning around and saying, well, the fact that I'm in the conversation means I'm responsible now. And I've worked with several folks, a couple of clients recently who would say, oh, I take full responsibility. And finally, one day I pulled them aside and said, no, don't think that bullshit of saying you're responsible means you're taking responsibility. Responsibility is navigating forward so it doesn't happen again, hopefully. I tried. I didn't die. I learned something. I applied what I learned and I did it again. So if they keep taking responsibility for the same thing, I'm thinking that's not responsibility, that's fault, but that's actually some false ego, some ego driven thing. Because responsibility is, okay, I get it. I'm in the center of this one way or another. What the hell do I do about it? What do we do about it? How do we make sure that our community is better than this?
I think when to give some encouragement to people that tend to maybe lean on the it's not my fault as a defense mechanism and move into the being I am responsible world, I think the upside is when you do take responsibility for the situation, you then own the solution until such time as you actually say it's my responsibility, and then you go into that solution orientated phase. Then and only then can you develop. If you just keep saying I'm responsible, but you don't actually go in search of a solution, we're just going round the mountain. So yeah, I think
it works for a couple of meetings. Everybody goes, sure. Oh, what a great leader taking responsibility. Exactly. I thought, no, he didn't. He just shut you the hell up so he could try to impress you with that statement.
We call that a pretender, not a player.
Right. And it's just a matter of, I don't even care if they're wrong, that it's someone's responsibility. If someone says, look, you're responsible for this. And I think, well, does me pointing out that that's why I say all things known and unknown are my responsibility. It's easier for me to say, okay, so comma, what, ? So what? Okay. So what do we do to move forward? But I get it in today's world too, professionally, people are getting fired, they're losing contracts. So the idea, you'll see it right now. There was a death in training a couple of years ago, and you'll see the captains and some of the senior enlisted at Bud's training, and they're all like, oh, I did this and I did this. This candidate was doing that and doing that. Everything. And I understand it because they need to get themselves out of hot water. The rest of us need to turn around and say, so, comma, what, question mark, what do we do to move forward? Because I'm tired of dead candidates.
Yep.
And it wasn't just this or just that. So what do we do to move forward? So I love it. But yeah, I'm around a lot of people lately. I just dropped a client that was very lucrative, because every time he take responsibility for stuff he voluntarily did, just no showing, not following through, low integrity of his word. And I finally just said, that doesn't mean anything once you've done it for the third or fourth time. It is like, I'm sorry I keep denting people's cars, but it's crazy. Yeah. So I love what you're saying. Responsibility is a way of moving forward, not necessarily taking blame. My ability to respond in a way that's more positive. I don't even care if they're wrong about blaming you. So it's just not a hill to die on.
Yeah.
It's not the hill to die on.
Right. In the last part of this interview, which is just, we could do this all day. We're going to run through about 7 points. And I think we quickly spoke about mental toughness. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop one word. And then I really would love to, if possible, to draw some comparisons, or maybe how that word really it's identified with a Navy SEAL, and just talk about, because I want my general contractor community, or my builders or subcontractors or even apprentices, if this is the first time they're watching, just to start to understand, the traits or the mindset qualities, and how that if you want to be a successful human in the Navy SEAL team, you're going to have to probably use the same qualities or the traits or improve on those if you want to be a successful general contractor. So it's really not exclusive. It's one and the same. So if you're out there and you want to be, a successful Navy SEAL, this will apply. If you're out there and you want to be successful in the construction business, this will apply. So let's round it up. Let's talk about real quick resilience. What does that mean to a Navy SEAL?
Resilience is a word we use a lot, but resilience is often underdefined anyway. But resilience is the ability to come back from. And we're all coming back from everything. So think about resilience if you can. How much can I come back from this and actually improve the position of the team, of the company? Not of myself, unless my position of improvement was to improve the position of the company or the team. So resilience is about the idea that I must always realize. I find the key to resilience is I don't know. I got through that one, but I don't know. I'm always, always, always listening to understand someone's point of view more. Resilience. So you're always going to come back from something. So it's about minimizing your negative response. You know what? Every time this happens, I turn into a dick. So I'm going to minimize my negative response. And then now I've minimized as you said, Max, we're high-tone people, you and I. We could lay waste to a village and think I should have just taken out the driver. Instead, I just laid waste to the whole village. And someone would say, well, you got the mission done. Yeah, but it actually took like 40 acres instead of like that one vehicle out. I could have just done the vehicle. So thing about resilience is the fact that we're always going to come back from things, but I have to come back from things and add value. So resilience, the focus for resilience is, how do I add more value tomorrow? I was going to come back anyway. You were going to get up tomorrow anyway. How do we add more value?
Because I know builders are going to... Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Your brain's going to go crazy on resilience when you think of it as, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to add more value in this way. I might have to just listen more. I might say, hey, I get frustrated when we don't get there fast enough. Okay, I'll just shut the hell up and worry about not getting frustrated. Whatever it is for you, I can't speak to your life without knowing people better. Your listeners, they all have different lives. Because that's another thing I never try to do. I'm not going to give you this pat answer and says it works across the board. It doesn't. There's a million things that lined up for every second in your day to happen. So how much more value can I add in my 3-foot circle tomorrow? Your brain your prefrontal cortex will go crazy with problem solving, critical thinking, feeling better instead of wallowing in feeling worse. Remember, your brain wants to continue to feel worse if it feels worse. It wants to do that. You have to anchor it in intentional. How do I add value? Like we talked about, even in violence, it's accidental and intentional. It's all those things. So
Yeah, I think because, us builders will always have challenging clients, we'll have project setbacks, we'll have financial pressures. And it's like we kind of just want easy street, but I'm pretty sure that street is being bulldozed and it doesn't exist. And so the resilience really comes out of those problems will reoccur because they're third party. But it's my ability to just return and face up to that and, systemize. How is it that I handle a project setback? How is it that I handle a client? And I think that is really, polishing and perfecting. And I think if we don't have resilience, we never actually enjoy the results of our discovery on how do we become, better in that situation.
And it's a precursor to trust, which is your second one of the 7 words, right? Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork is next. Yep. Let's talk about teamwork. Go.
Yeah. So then I'll bounce off of resilience into what you just described to me says. That's how I actually get trust. Resilience, how I come back and add more value, is actually what trust is. Trust. People talk about trust in a lot of ways. I describe trust in the classes I do like this. Repeated observable behavior is trust. If you have a person who always shows up a little hungover and a little late, you have negative trust.
Right.
I negatively trust that person is going to always be a little hungover and a little late for work, right? It pisses you off. It does whatever, you deal with it, whatever. It's, it. So trust is repeated, observable behavior. And the resilience was about every time I come back, how do I add more value? Now, this is not about everyone else in that resilience and teamwork. This was about you. We said it's about your living room. If I think about how I add value, I'm training my brain to work better and to compensate faster and to minimize its judgment of myself, others, and overwhelm. Those are natural responses to high order negative brain chemistry or positive. Enthusiasm, who's never been super enthusiastic and then judge the heck out of themselves. That's what a brain does when it doesn't understand the dramatic fall in chemistry. So teamwork, the foundation of teamwork that I would say is trust, repeated observable behavior according to what's important to your team. So I have to do what I have to do, but that's not teamwork. I might get all of my stuff done. You might look at me, and Max, you might use the term, well, that guy manages a team better than anybody I ever know. He might, but unless I understand what my team needs to have trust in, right? If I don't understand what my team have trust in, I don't have teamwork. So in teamwork, I might be a great manager, and that way I manage everything well. But teamwork is founded in adding value based on what the team needs. I might have a team that, I won't give a lot of examples here, but it's about what the team needs. If I don't know what my team needs emotionally, if I don't know what they need, and I'm modeling them, and I'm not catering to them, this is the SEAL teams. At every level, we got bigger fish to fry than to coddle it. No way am I suggesting that level of trust, but trust is repeated, observable behavior. So every time I fly off the handle, I'm developing negative trust. I call it negative Jim and positive Jim. So trust is repeated, observable behavior. Resilience is the precursor to trust, and trust strengthens resilience. It's amazing. So if you can look at every single member of your team and say, I can think of 1 or 2 or 3 things that they really need to work better, to perform better, to be trusted, to be better. One of those is actually guidelines. One of those, we all need standards, but the first standard is our own. Yeah. If I flip out 2/3 of the time on a job, that's the standard. It's not the 1/3. If I flip out 10% of the time, that's the standard, because people remember negativity more than they'll remember positivity. So trust and teamwork are hand in hand. It's your behavior. A lot of the world teaches teamwork. If I should figure out it's really more about, I need to figure out who and that I'm going to keep showing up as a positive adding value force. And it's like that I'm going to think about the teammate next to me. Remember, if I'm overwhelmed, I can't think about Max. So I don't have teamwork because I'm freaking overwhelmed, and overwhelm is about me, not about Max.
So does that then segue into, because the next one is discipline.
Mhm.
Because like I said, for me to not go in that negative sort of direction as far as emotion up, then what I have to apply is, hey, I've got to think about and use regulation. Like, how do I regulate my behavior? And that then would be an essential, a personal discipline. Now, I guess SEALs are trained to maintain discipline, in high stress situations. Speak to that.
Yeah. Okay. So discipline, think about the word, to be a disciple of, right? So it's what I'm a disciple of. Am I a disciple of good sleep? Because I know if I don't have good sleep, I'm going to be irritable and exhausted. And I know my IQ is going to come down. I won't be able to do math. I won't notice as many things. So it's to be a disciple of. So that's all discipline is. So we think about discipline a lot of times when people say, oh, I expect it to be more like regimented or hardcore, like a Marine Corps person. The discipline. So the world is kind of being sold that discipline is like a punch in the side of your head emotionally, that they're like that. It's not. It's to be a disciple of, how do I train my brain and learn to train my business and learn to train myself in business to simply navigate it better. See, resilience. I love the way you wrote these: resilience, teamwork, discipline, in all this, because they all flow together. So discipline is, what am I a disciple of? The first thing I would ever offer is that we don't speak the language of the next level of success. We speak the language of our last level of success. A team that wants to go to the Super Bowl and is Super Bowl worthy ends up with a coach who says, I love, nothing you were doing is wrong, but we won't get to the Super Bowl with it. We got to Super Bowl ready. We got to a team level that we could go to the Super Bowl or the Cup or the finals or all these things, but we don't speak the language of the next level of success.
Yeah.
That is so liberating because it builds confidence instead of ego. You brought it up earlier. If I know I don't speak the language of the next level of success, so discipline is always knowing that I don't know the next level language, and I become a disciple of learning that, and a disciple of taking care of myself, and a disciple of realizing, what am I doing that's tearing my value apart? And I start chipping away at it. I'm not saying get rid of all your bad habits. I'm saying just go after the ones you can go after. If I'm about to flip out on someone, and I'll leave you this, when you talk about reinforce guidelines first for yourself and then for everybody else, reinforce guidelines and provide a path. But discipline is being a disciple of, we never know the language of the next level of success. And that is so insulting to some people. I've had someone tell me before, I can't believe you told me there's things I would need to learn to double my business. I can't believe that's not organically known. As if I could be 58 years old and know anything about anything. I listen to every single person I work with. Someone asked me in the insurance, one of my insurance clients said, hey, what do you know about insurance? I said, well, thankfully, I'm in a room full of people who know about insurance. What I understand is the language of business at every level, and I'm going to rely on all of you to keep giving me the knowledge that I need on that. So become a disciple of learning about the next level. Well, Max, that's what you talk when you talked about the 21 silver bullets, all of your phrasing, all of your stories. It's leading me into being a disciple of the next level of success. And it doesn't matter that I'm not in construction. I learned just as much by your phrasing in my life, because the words are the words and they all fit. So become a discipline of the next level of learning, not necessarily doing. Remember, you can read faster than you can execute. You can read faster than you can execute. Max could tell you, could tell me in 1 hour more stuff that I could do in 2 years.
Yeah.
But I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm letting it all sink in. So we can read faster than we can execute. So we make a plan, and that's discipline. How much can I do before I'm overwhelmed? Max, you said it earlier. Everyone's different. One person can do 30%. One person can do 60. One person can do 13. It doesn't matter. You're either growing or dying. You're not standing still ever. As long as you're growing, it can be 1%, 5%. It can be 35% 1 year. And then you realize, no way can we handle that. Discipline is constantly shifting based on your world and your response. Become a disciple of paying attention to yourself, paying attention to the people you work with, your team. I need to know what my team is experiencing sometimes before they do, because they're focused on, I don't care whether it's the backhoe or the 204 downrange. If they're focused on either one of those things, I need to notice when they're off. I can't do that when I'm self-focused and overwhelmed. That's the sacrifice. The sacrifice of leadership is that it can't be woe is me or it has to be, I will get back to me after this shift.
So that attitude towards discipline, is almost a precursor to the next point, which is adaptability. Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to become a disciple of, or I'm going to be disciplined in the areas of. And if you walk into that sphere and think it's going to be the same and no different to then you miss that you've not understood the principle. So it's going to require that once I make the decision to be disciplined, I've then got to join the world of discipline, which is going to require of me a level of adaptability. There is our next word, adaptability.
I love it. There's two writers I really love that are kind of spiritual teachers. I did my master's in psychological counseling and spiritual psychology, and I love them. One of them went to the mountain and he sat up on the mountain. People went up and fed him. They cut his nails and everything. And I thought, yeah, he's an interesting writer. The other one was a banker, and he navigated loans and banking and businesses and people. And he had daughters and he had a wife. And I thought, that's the guy I want to read from, because that's the guy that navigated life. Yeah. He didn't say, I'm a disciple of, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. That's actually how we end up with dictators. Right. I'm a disciple of, I read the books that Max wrote, and I said, I'm going to do this no matter what happens, and no matter who it affects and how it affects. And I'm going to do it at the pace that I thought Max meant in his book. Right. It's crazy. So adaptability is actually navigating. We talked about training your brain. Yep. If we are often frustrated, if we are often stressed, which we are, right? There's money stress, job stress, deadline stress. Who makes a deadline? I don't even know why we call them that, because if we died every time, we'd be dead more than a cat, right? So adaptability is the ability to go up and say, I'm going to navigate through this. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to adjust today. I'm going to focus on it. So yeah, your discipline is about you becoming more adaptable. And then also getting more firm on what guidelines needed to happen, so we don't have to adapt all the time. We call that Murphy's Law in the SEAL team, right? There, you'll hear people joke about it, saying, oh, we have this perfect plan, and we have the alternative plan, and then we have Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy's going to fuck your shit up every single time. Like, he's going to make it snow when it doesn't snow in July. There's going to be a volcanic eruption that hasn't happened in 13.2 billion years, according to someone on TikTok, right? That's going to happen. And it happens every single day in your life. So adaptability is to be able to navigate. Yeah. And when we talked about this, we said the teammate next to me is more important than me. The mission is more important than me. So every time we feel ourselves get into ourselves, oh my God, what's this mean to my money? What's this going to mean to my family? I bring myself back to now, and I turn around and say, okay, how's Max doing? Good. Max still in the game. Is there anything we can do to make this day work out to the best of its ability? All of the disciplines we ever practiced, all of the trust we built in teamwork, and all of the resilience that we built up in training ourselves to add more value tomorrow, it all is in our quiver of arrows right now. Yeah. As you know, every job is a shit show at some point. Nothing. It's weird, actually, that we can't stabilize even a single job or contract or evolution or mission in the field. It's weird that we can't get it to go just as planned, but it's true. So.
Yeah. Which I think, when we're talking about these qualities that are relative or that relate both to, a Navy SEAL team operator as well as a builder or general contractor, to have that attitude towards adaptability, it then really morphs into the next point is leading under pressure, because, I've seen guys that use pressure as an excuse to behave badly. So let's talk about that trait or that mindset. When you go, oh, there's so much pressure on me, essentially that pushes the emotion up. And as we've already outlined, when the emotion goes up, your ability to make good decisions goes down. So I think, the next quality or trait is leadership under pressure. Speak to that, Coach Mac.
Great. Thanks. I love this one. You're really hitting me where I live on this one. In BUDS training, which is where all SEALs go, as we mentioned earlier, in my day when I was first starting this, and I always tell the candidates, don't ever let me hear you infighting, because I know I've not only lost the person you're yelling at about not be not, they might, it might be true, but what's now happened is I've lost you too. I've lost the person that you think doesn't have their shit together, true or untrue, doesn't matter. But I've also lost you, because every time I escalate in negativity, my IQ drops, my available IQ drops, potentially still the same person. My available IQ drops. So when we talk about leadership under pressure, as soon as I start to lose it, I'm actually minimizing my leadership. So I don't have leadership under pressure. The best I can do is manage. And if I'm my team apart, I can't manage eroding that trust. And there's a really good chance, this is by the, so don't think you read this in a book and you become this tomorrow. Right? It took me 6 years before I thought I was a halfway decent teammate, but I was an A+ operator. I could shoot well, run well, do this well, do that well. I mistakenly thought that was what the foundation of good leadership was. It didn't matter if I was a B player and a great leader. I'd have been more effective than being an A+ player and that. So when you think about leadership under pressure, first of all, consider the teammate next to me. Remember, I said the teammate next to me is more important than me. Who's a specialist in your team? If everything's going south and I'm going to start losing my patience, which I can do, right? We can all do. We're going to start barking orders. So think about who's a specialist and call on them. Say, Max, actually, I might just know Max the best. He might not be the specialist. I just don't know Max's team. I might turn around to Max and say, Max, I see one big problem glaring at me. I want to hear your biggest problem you're seeing. I also want to hear your suggestion. Who can solve that problem the fastest? What do? I don't live in your area. I don't do these things. Don't be afraid to delegate. Remember, when we're stressed out, it's the me show. Me, me, me. And then I bark orders. My IQ's down 30%, 30 points minimum. It's down 30 points. And now I'm going to do not hesitate to ask a question then. Bill is the best person to handle that. Tell me what you think. As soon as I ask Max, my IQ starts to return. As soon as I ask a question about what somebody thinks. So under pressure or under fire, remember, if we're not dying, when everybody's dying and you go contact front, contact left, well, then I'm the person, contact front, contact left. I called it out. But in a team professional environment like this, we're not dealing with an enemy that is doing one thing. The faster you can focus on someone else assisting you, not being directed by you, the more you're going to recover your own IQ. Remember, this wasn't about your team. This is about you becoming a better leader in that moment. So when you feel yourself devolve to the negative, just know what's happening. Problem solving, critical thinking, empathy, compassion, basic math, hearing people. I'm only going to hear the keywords that matter to me that Max said once I'm irritated. He might have had the second sentence he said might have saved the day, but I didn't hear it because I only heard what I didn't like on the first sentence. Tunnel vision, tunnel hearing, tunnel thinking. This is exactly the same as it is in the field, but even more important, because you're going to fight, flight, or freeze professionally far more, because we don't notice as much. We're not just going to die, right? You're not going to go through 25 events in a day where you might die. Chances are you are dying in that amount of time, but you can go through it professionally like that. So think about engaging someone else. The idea of me saying, Max, I'm about to do this and this. What's your best idea to add to that? That is going to make your prefrontal cortex get more active. It's going to start to minimize the negativity. And I move from dictator to teammate, irritated teammate, frustrated teammate, but teammate just the same. I'm getting smarter by the second by just adding value, unless somebody's dying, and then we just take control and do it. But in most cases, we're feeling the death of our world, not the death of the humans around us.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, number 6, obviously, if you're under pressure, you've got to be cool, calm, and collected, because you can't take your eyes off the prize. We've got to pay attention to the details. So that's really the next thing. I'm sure Navy SEALs, they're paid very well, or maybe not well enough, to pay attention to the detail, because sometimes it's those little small things that can bring a mission unstuck if you're not on the ball.
Mm. Attention to detail, super important. And again, just know that when you're under pressure, your attention to detail is minimized. That's chemistry. It's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anybody listening to this. Attention to detail goes down when we're stressed. Why? Right? If Max and I are driving down the road in a car and someone's about to come in our lane and looks like they're going to run into us with one of those, I'm in Texas, so they have the big double wide mobile homes all over the road. Looks like that mobile home's about to run us over. Nothing else matters to me but that mobile home. Max might still be noticing that someone's about to pull in front of us. It's very easy for me to not see that anymore because my attention to detail has come down. Again, this is where all your resilience, teamwork, adaptability, and so it all comes back, and leadership under pressure, it all comes back together. The better I know my team, the more we can positively trust each other. Attention to detail always comes down under duress. So just know that it comes down, because once you know it, I'd be more likely to say, all right, I'm probably going to do this, this, and this. Max, anything I'm missing? You can ask your newest guy. Max could be the first guy in 6 months. You know why? He's going to think of something that no one else thinks about. It might be ludicrous. Max might be there for 4 months and say, well, how about this? And be like, Max, that actually gets covered. But way to notice that. Remember, as soon as I focused on someone else, my attention to detail is increasing. This wasn't about them. It's about you. It's about your leadership. So attention to detail is always going to come down under duress. Our brain is going to want to isolate us and become more of a dictator. But we have to understand, measurably, I've lost 30 IQ points. I've been at this game for 40 years that I'm in. I could just take 20 of it right off the top when I'm under extreme duress. 20 years of experience gone. But if I turn around and I print to one person, say, if I picked one person and said, give me one more thing you'd focus on right now, it's not that they're going to add value. It's that you activated your prefrontal cortex to ask the question. You got smarter and you bought yourself the 10 seconds you need to have better attention to detail. Remember, they are all actors in your play, right? It's not about whether they even add good value. It's about the fact that you took time to bring your apex predator self back online and not become a guy getting out of the way with a mobile home that's going to run Max and I over in the truck.
Yeah, I think there's, all of those points that we've just talked about, and then we're leading up to the final one. You're making a lot of reference back to, and I have done as well, is the whole, we've got to keep the emotion out, because it really becomes a disadvantage in our decision-making processes and how we act, how we lead, how we demonstrate our leadership and things like that. And so the final point here is mental toughness. Now, before you get started on that, to me, it seems like I've got to find better ways of staying or maintaining or living in a state of calm, no matter what happens in the marketplace or in the events in my life, or where on the road or wherever I might be. I've got to maintain this state of calm, which it almost seems like it's opposite ends of the spectrum when you go mental toughness and calm. But I think you've got to have a vigilance, mentally, to be able to remain in that state of calm so that your emotions don't go up, so your ability to make good decisions don't drop 30 or 40 points. So, I think this is a great one to finish off, because really, ultimately, what we've been talking about is the humanity within the business, and you and I and our audience as, humans. And I think this is a great way to round out, because I'll say mental toughness, and immediately I think about, Arnold Schwarzenegger and, that toughness. However, there's this poise and finesse that I think is more relevant as it relates to mental toughness, not so much just macho bullshit. What are your thoughts?
I love what you said, because I ask people what they mean. They'll say mental toughness. And I always say, can you tell me what you mean? Because first of all, everyone is mentally tough about something.
Sure.
So that's what I love, is we all, in the SEAL teams, in Bud's program, you'll watch candidates quit and they'll be demoralized. And I think, hey, look, I get it that there's billions of dollars of movies made and everything, and we're selling that as the tough thing. There's so many ways to be a man or a good father or a good friend or whatever. So the first thing I ask people is, what is mental toughness? And because we're kind of back to resilience, right? We're mental toughness and resilience. Yeah. I love the word resilience, because what I would say is more positively resilient. absolute responsibility, my absolute ability to respond more positively. And I know it's more positive because the outcome is better for other people. It might be the profit line, which was also other people. So see my profit line. So don't think when I talk about people that I'm not thinking about your profit line as well, because if my team is doing better and everybody's on fire and we understand each other and I've reinforced guidelines and provided the training path up or help people get the hell out of the company kindly, my profit line is better. I'm no way am I saying coddling. And so mental toughness to me speaks to more about resilience. But mental toughness is the ability for me to be able to navigate back and forth, right? I got Max here because I'm irritated over here. Doesn't mean because Max, sensitive guy, right? Right? He's got Max, sensitive guy over here. So it doesn't mean I'm having a bad day. So I melt Max down. We've all done that. I will do it again. Hopefully not today after this conversation, but I will do it again. So think about mental toughness as actually your ability to respond, because that's what really makes the man or the woman or the leader or the friend or the family member. My ability to respond regardless of my automated response, which might be to lay waste to the village, to turn around and say, this is this and it's stressful, but that is not Max. And this is not. So you can't just do this. This is why talking about it helps. This is why understanding the IQ factor helps. This is why I started doing the neuroscience classes, is so people understood there's nothing wrong with me. I'm actually doing what my brain was supposed to do. So think about mental toughness, if you will, about being, how can I respond in a way that is less damaging and more helpful? You can't take something away without replacing it. So we don't just stop being a dick. We replace it with something. We don't just stop laying waste to the village. We replace it with a surgical strike or preventative maintenance that kept the village from needing to be burned, or that kept the targets from needing to go, right? We can't take something away without replacing it. I would offer that mental toughness is that you keep training yourself to replace something so that you don't use a more nuclear option.
Right.
Mental toughness. Believe me, it's not, you will not be wishy-washy. You will not be weaker. You will be a stronger, more decisive leader.
Yep.
You will hear people better. Your brain will just work better. So
yeah. Coach Mac, it's been a pleasure. How do you want to summarize, or, how do you want to just bring it all back under roof? Not necessarily just for general contractors, but for business owners who might be listening. Obviously you deal with your fair share of business owners, and how there is that common ground between the traits of a business operator and those that are, Navy SEALs. Just summarize. I mean, what would be your departing words to encourage and to motivate and inspire?
I think if I look at all the candidates I've worked with and all the business people I've worked with, the biggest lesson is that people think they should have known better. Intuitive is intuitive. Excellence is practice of learning, right? And then once you're at that new level, now it's your average. So excellence is like this illusion, like success. Success is like this illusion in business. So we just keep going and working on the fact that I'm less afraid of becoming someone new. I'm less afraid of learning because then I listen better, right? I listen to every single person who speaks. I listen to every word they say. I want to learn from them, whether they're 10, whether they're 100, the newest person in the business. So if you catch yourself, here's a little take home. If you catch yourself dismissing people, oh, I've heard him say that before. You are shutting your head down from working better. Forget about it. They might be and what happens then is we don't choose our environment more wisely, by the way. So excellence is not intuitive. It is consistently worked on. And it's worked on with the understanding of, I never know the answer. Never. The answer that's worked well for you for 27 years in a row could get 15 or 20% better, or could kill you tomorrow. With that understanding, I'm moving forward with confidence, not ego, because I don't know better, but I know enough that this is the way I'm going to go. And then everything else comes up. Excellence is not intuitive. Average is intuitive. So when you think you got it down, realize you're stopping your brain from learning more.
Yep.
You're stopping your leadership ability from growing, and you're minimizing trust in you. People can't trust themselves around you unless they trust you. So hope that helps.
Powerful, man. All right, well let's wrap it up. I don't know how long we've been going for, but it's been a few minutes. But where is the best place? Because I've got obviously a couple of links, but where is the best place people can find you? Maybe websites and all that, and we'll get all that information in the show notes anyway. But if people want to reach out to you, what's the best? Where's the best place to go for that?
My email is john@directaction.pro. And I have two main websites up. One is just for the physical and leadership training program called 8weekstoawesome.com, 8weekstoawesome.com. And you can always reach me at directaction.pro or john@directaction.pro. Do not hesitate to ask questions. It is my belief that the best part of our information is always free and things. So it's not, just feel free to reach out, ask any question, anything you want. I learn because of what people are interested in, and I am really interested in people. So it's all a help.
Brilliant, mate. Well, look, I appreciate you investing the time in me and, of course, my audience. And, I really appreciate you, making a massive effort to, really bring about some teaching and some insight. And, it was just a great honor for me to be able to sort of include you in my show. And, I'm sure maybe we'll do it again. Maybe it'll be the 300th. Who knows?
Well, thank you. And for me too, when you told me it was 200, you hadn't done it for so long, I thought, okay, that's pressure. Yeah. But I really appreciate it. I met you and you were on fire, and you have not put out that flame. It is impressive. As I said, you and I share one good thing. We're too stupid to say no. So we just keep on pushing. Yep. We just keep on driving forward. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. All right, folks. If you got any questions, you can email me, Max at Elite Business Advisory. But if you want to talk to me about some business coaching as well, at elitebusinessadvisory.com, hit the book a consultation button. Like Coach Max said, it doesn't hurt to ask some questions. You're not going to get any obligation from me. I will drop as much value in your life as I can. Win, lose, or draw, whether you work, with me directly or not. Would love to just spend a bit of time with you. Get across to Business for Builders VIP Facebook group. Get amongst the show there. Answer the questions. If you're a good sort, I'll let you in. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. I hope you got a lot out of that. We would love some feedback. Drop some comments. Shoot us some emails, and just let us know what you enjoyed about that episode. And we would love to, get your feedback and hear from our audience what you've got to say. Go build a kick-ass business. See you in the next episode. Cheers.